Hello, my YouTube world. This is Johnny Moe. Getting excited. It's March 5th. Just did a little bit of salting. We're still under a foot of snow. I don't know when spring is going to actually spring here. So I'm just sitting in my office doing a little bit of book work after the little bit of salting I did today. Thought about doing a video. Didn't really know what to do one on. I didn't want to start a series because I'm kind of busy right now and don't have time to do it. So I'm going to do a video on random thoughts and random tips. 15-minute, quick hit, maybe 3-4 tips, and we're going to move on. First tip. It's March 5th. Do you have your letter? Do you have your truck lettering on it yet? Is it wrapped? Do you have vinyl lettering on it yet? And honestly, guys, it's one of the best things you can do for your business. Oh, Johnny, I've got magnets. That's cool. Now, listen, if you got magnets on your truck, that's cool. Don't get mad at me. You got to remember that my channel is for people who want to grow. People who want to go to the next level in business are between $45,000 and $250,000 in business. This is what we've done to be successful. So I'm going to be very particular on what I think works. So please don't get irritated. Don't get all upset and get mad because I'm suggesting a way that's different than your way. This is something that's worked for us, and we have 19 years in the business. We've made a lot of money. We're a solid 6-figure company, hands down. I know how to make money in this business. I've been doing it a long time. This is one of the main reasons why I'm against magnets. Now follow me. Here's my business card. We'll say that this is a truck. This is what's right on the door sign. Generally what happens in a magnet, you can't see the number because you have Matt's Lawncare, Lawn and Landscape, and then you have a small number here. And when you're traveling, you can't see the very thing that you need them to see to get before them to sell them the work that you need. You want to get a bigger billboard. By using your truck as the billboard, you can put more information on different parts of the truck, therefore they can read it more. Another reason is they could be sitting in a 4-way stop sign. You could be a half a block down parked this way, they're parked this way, but it's so far you can't read the number. When you letter your truck, the number can be very, very big. Therefore, they can get the number, and then you can get before them to solve problems. Remember, we're all about solving problems. What we do is we solve outdoor problems for our clients. They have bushes that need to be trimmed. We have a hedge trimmer. They have grass that needs to be green. We have fertilizer. They have grass that needs to be cut. We have a mower. They have snow on their driveway. We have a snow plow. The list goes on. Be the solution to their problem. You'll always be successful, especially if you solve the solution with excellence. So therefore, it's March 5th. I would be going down the phone book. It's going to cost you between $300 and $500 to get your truck, vinyl lettered. What about wrapped, Johnny? I'm for wrapping. The problem what I see with wrapping is generally what I see with wrapping is people go crazy and then they'll add a whole bunch of colors and you've got this great looking thing that's going down the street, but it's so colorful people aren't going to the very one thing you need them to go for. You need to get them to your number. You got to get the number to them. You got to get them calling your phone. So that's what you want to do. This is the only way we advertise. I don't have, newspapers, direct marketing. I've never handed a flyer. I've sent newsletters out to my to my clients, and I gave them 20% off one time if they referred somebody. Did it work? It worked pretty good. Generally, when I've done that, I didn't think it through because I didn't realize that I didn't have enough help to take on the extra work. So, thinking things through. It's March 5th. We probably got another month and 2 weeks before we get in to start mowing lawns and pruning shrubs. So you want to start thinking about what you're going to do. That's one of the ways. Get your truck lettered. It's the best thing you can do. If you have a nice trailer, get that lettered, man. That's a huge billboard. People take notice of that stuff. All right, so tip number 2. Let's go with equipment buying. Let's go with equipment buying. Right now, everyone's excited about buying equipment. Everyone's going to the shows. Just got a text message. My local dealer is, putting on a show. It's one of the biggest around. Great. They have every piece of equipment you can think of. They have Echo, Steel, Red Max, John Deere, Kubota, Hustler, Ferris, Exmark. They just got so much stuff up there. And they're a huge ag dealer, too, so they sell the big boy tractors, too. So it's a huge open house, and everyone gets excited. I get excited. I'm just like anyone else. I love new equipment. I'm an equipment guy. I love it. But in 19 years, I've become a pro at buying equipment. Here's one of the things you want to do when you're buying. Let's say you're in the market for buying a brand new zero turn. Right now is not the best time to buy a piece of equipment, I'll tell you right now, because you're not going to get deals. You're going to get what's called the open house deal, and that's offered every year. It's not really a deal. They already know that you're going to buy a piece of equipment. So if you're really serious about buying a piece of equipment, if you wanted to buy one in, say, September, they're more apt to give you a lot better deal in September than they are right now. You're going to get an open house spring deal. It's not really a deal because they just finished raising their prices. Like Exmark and all the big companies, they raise their prices every year about $1,100, between $800 and $1,100. So if you'd have bought it last year, you would have saved $1,100 anyway. Plus, they would probably give you a deal to get that equipment off their showroom floor. Big tip, baby! Johnny Moe giving you the equipment tip. Tip number 2 in this particular tip. So I'm giving you a tip on top of a tip in the same tip. Woo! Wah! All right. Don't buy your equipment to June 15th. What? That's exactly right. I can't tell you how many times I've bought a piece of equipment in March. And what happens is 2 years goes by. And the equipment is sat 10 months into 2 years because you got 5 months off. Coming out of winter, I can't tell you how many times that April 25th, the stinking thing breaks down and it's out of warranty. I can't tell you how many times it's done it. So finally I got smart and started buying in June. Why? It covers you the first 2.5 months. So if I buy a piece of equipment 2015 and June 15th and I have 5 months off of winter, what happens is I can still use it. So 2015 will go to 2017. Okay? So 2017 on June 15th of 2017 is when the warranty will run out. That gives, and plus, between April and generally May 15th, usually the most cash-strapped you are because you just came out of a winter or a very slow period and your money starts being depleted unless you do snow plowing and other things in the winter. Generally, you're getting depleted. So you're buying a piece of equipment to your fleet on March 30th and you're adding payments and you're losing out on a warranty. So if you go to June, you extend your... Wow, big tips, guys. Huge tips. Another reason to purchase in the middle of June. Look, Johnny Moe going to give you a third tip. And tip number 2. Woo! Baby! When you're... By June 15th, generally you'll know if you're going to go through a substantial drought. If it starts to warm up, go into the 90s in April, and it doesn't relinquish in May, generally the weather pattern, the jet stream is generally too high north and it ain't coming down anytime soon, and you're likely not going to get any rain, and the heat from the north is coming, the south is coming up, and it's just pounding you. Why buy a piece of equipment in June? Why buy a piece of equipment that year when it's not going to be used? When you get a piece of equipment, you want to try to put as many hours on it as you can so that the warranty is the most effective. If you're going to blow a pump out at 1,300 hours and that's when the pump's going to go, well, put the 1,300 hours on in 2 years so you get a brand new pump. Then boom. That's an $1,800 part right there. If you got the new the 5400 transaxles, that's a pump and a wheel motor. If it's going to go, it'll go within that time. You want that paid for the first time. You don't want to be sitting there, have a drought one year and only putting on a couple hundred hours on it that year. That's bad for yourself. And so you want to stretch that out. Make a good financial decision. It's June 1st. You realize you're already starting to go every other week mowing. What do you think July and August are going to be like? July and August can be horrendous for you. If June's already you're going every other week, it's not like the weather pattern's going to turn, and it's going to all of a sudden rain unless you start getting tropical storms come up the coast and start penetrating into the interior of the company and dropping days of rain on you, which generally doesn't happen too much. You're begging for something that's generally not going to happen. So you want to postpone your equipment buying. Like I said, you have a drought. Maybe it starts picking up September. You might want to go buy a mower then. Get a better deal on it. And you really got some, now you're really pushing the envelope of the warranty. Woo! 3 tips on tip number 2. That's too much. I mean, we can shut the video down right now. See, what other tips? We'll stay with equipment, and then we'll shut down the video. I'm getting a little tired. Giving too many tips out. Too many seeks. Equipment. You do not want to be the research and development department for these big mower companies. These mowers cost too much money, and I feel that every single company that makes mowers are terrible at R&D. They are not cutting real-life situations. They're cutting right outside their shop, which they cut all the time. They're cutting about 1 inch off. Every mower cuts good at 1 inch. But real-life northern grass, fertilized 6-7 inches a week, is normal in the spring. And that mower deck has to be able to process that grass at some point. And these guys, they don't get it. Even when you call the factory and you have a complaint, they're like, well, I cut too much grass off. No, you just didn't do the proper R&D. You released a product that's inferior, and now you got to try to do a modification and fix it or scrap the deck. Let me give you a good example of this. A few years ago, I bought a Triton deck from Exmark. Terrible. I took an $800 loss. It couldn't cut northern grass. It sucked. It was terrible. Took an $800 loss because I messed up and bought a first-generation Triton deck from Exmark. I did it again with the ICD deck. When the ICD deck first came out, I was one of the first ones to buy it. Again, another deck that it's on its 3rd modification now. Now, the 3rd modification is pretty decent. They still got a little bit of issue up here in the north, but it's very minuscule now. The 1st edition was horrendous. I can go on forever about that deck. You don't want to be that guy. And I'll tell you the truth. I'll tell you a company that I'm just so dissatisfied with. I haven't owned their... But when you constantly have to put a new deck on just about every year or you're doing modifications, stay away from them. Hustler's a prime example. They build a solid mower. But I tell you what, they've got the VX4, the X2, the X1. They're redoing and renaming decks all the time. They cannot get a deck to cut grass. Listen, guys, don't be the R&D. Let them figure it out. And once they figure it out, then go buy the mower. Here's some decks. The top 3 decks I think that are in this industry standard best decks. I think the Skag Velocity Pro deck is probably the best deck for cutting in all situations. I think the Toro Turbo Force is the next best deck for cutting in all situations. The next one after that is the Exmark Ultra Cut. The only situation the Exmark Ultra Cut does not like is morning dew. If you can avoid that and start at 10 o'clock, the Exmark Ultra Cut is probably the best manicured cutting deck. My opinion, those are the 3 decks. Those are the standards. I own ICD decks. Just something I went with. I can work around them. I'm pretty handy, figuring out what's wrong with the deck, and I've worked with the factory. Plus, they were cheaper. So I went with them. They told me they figured out the ICD deck problem, so I went back with them when I went fleet a few years ago. I bought Snapper Pros. Good mower, not the best cutting. When you start cutting 5-6 inches off, and it's not a perfectly flat cut. It leaves just a little it's just too much volume underneath that deck. It leaves a little weird pattern. So I had to go to a lower lift blade to help that situation, and it's worked tremendously. But I don't like to have to do that. The Velocity Pro, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that with a Turbo Force. The only time the Turbo Force struggles is when it's real dry out and you're cutting high, like 3.5 inches. It doesn't want to pick it up and suck and throw it. The Exmark Ultra Cut, excellent deck. You're going to have to clean that deck out a lot. You're going to have to, cut in the right circumstances. Woo! Gravely and I've heard they've got great decks. I don't know. They've done some deck modifications, so I stay away from that. I did not like John Deere when I demoed it. I didn't think it cut very well at all. Just my opinion. Baby, those are some big tips. Random thoughts for you. Share with me some of your thoughts. Let me know what's going on the 5th. What are you thinking about? What's going on in your mind? Are you thinking about buying equipment? What are you eyeing up, man? All right, guys. Have a good one.